Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation. My name is Roy O'Connor. I'm the chair of the Roads and Transportation Society, and welcome to tonight's installment on our Sustainability Grand Tour. The topic tonight is Optimizing Sustainability through the reallocation of road space. It's the second in a two-part series on this topic. You might recall the first and opening presentation was last January, the opening presentation for the tour. And tonight we have Sharon O'Gara from Kildare County Council to present for us on this topic. The topic tonight, you might have seen from the flyer, it is in general, it's highlighting on recent projects that they've rolled out in Kildare County Council, primarily in 2020, all around the better reallocation of road space for pedestrians and cyclists. So Sharon's going to run through a number of those schemes. Generally hoped to be as useful as possible during the COVID period, but particularly to be applicable thereafter as well. So the initiative is obviously to encourage a sustainable modes, both during COVID and after, and to put a meaningful investment on what is a €360 million annual pledge of money towards walking and cycling projects. So just to introduce Sharon, she's graduated from Bolton Street. DIT as an architect, and she's completed her professional diploma in architecture and master's in urban design from UCD. So Sharon is the senior executive architect and urban designer there in Kildare, and she's working with the strategic projects and public realm team that they established there about 2 years ago. And so before joining Kildare County Council, Sharon worked in private practice both in Ireland and Australia. So I'll share Sharon's email address at the end of her presentation. It's around 35 to 40 minutes long. And at the end of that, we'll run through some question and answers that you might have and just a couple of upcoming events as well. So during the talk, if you have any questions on any points that Sharon is making, could you pop them into the question and answer section there? And as I said, after the talk, I'll do the best I can to get through as many of those. Sharon's happy to stay on the line, and possibly her colleague Mairead Hunt is going to join us as well to take any questions you might have. So please do ask as many questions as you can. We're here to share the experiences of what's going on in Kildare and see as many as possible can be useful for the rest of you in your own various places of work. So Sharon, can you join us there and maybe take over from the first slide? Welcome to Engineers Ireland online event.
Thanks very much, Roy, for the introduction, and thanks to Engineers Ireland for asking me to speak this evening. I'll start off the presentation now. So I want to talk about two projects that we delivered last year in Kildare County Council under the COVID-19 accelerated measures funding that we got through Town and Village Renewal. I'll be talking about the projects primarily in the context of tactical urbanism and a quick response in response to the pandemic. I'm a member of a team that was set up, as Roy said, about 2 years ago in Kildare County Council. It's the Strategic Projects and Public Realm team. We're multidisciplinary, so we planners, engineers, and as Roy said, Mairead, who's joining in as well, maybe later for some questions and answers. Mairead is team lead in the SEO and planning as well. So we're multidisciplinary, diverse. We collaborate on projects together, and that multidisciplinary element is very important to, I suppose, the success of the projects. Geez.
You got it there.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. So altogether, we have about 60 active projects at various stages from inception to completion. And in that, just to give a flavour of the projects that we're doing, we have about 14 town renewal plans at various stages of completion. We have 2 public open spaces at design stage and 3 at Part 8 stage. We're working on one innovation hub at construction stage. We also have the Grand Canal Greenway and the Bar Blueway projects at detailed design and construction stage respectively. And the estimated total project budget is in the region of 40 million. So tonight I'm going to talk about Kildare Market Square and Poplar Square in Naas Towns. And I suppose these projects are, at the other end in terms of budget. These were very low cost, quick to install interventions. It's about the reallocation of road space in favour of people and community orientated spaces. Also, I suppose, tactical urbanism and that reappropriation of public space. And like I said, these are low cost, quick to install interventions with a high degree of design flexibility and the potential to catalyse long-term change. So this is just a screenshot I took from a webinar from Kevin Layden. He was talking about tactical urbanism in the context of COVID-19. And it is about, I suppose, having an idea, communicating with and consulting with the community, building it, collecting data and learning from the experience. And that is a continuous cycle of build, measure and learn as the project develops. This screenshot as well from a webinar on tactical urbanism and COVID-19 probably illustrates it very practically. Phase 1 of the tactical urbanism stage. In the first photograph there, you see the emergency response, which is just to claim the street and to use very low cost measures, like you can see there, those bollards there, to really to close off that space. And the next stage, the phase 2, is in trialing it, you're investing a little bit more money. You're probably redoing line markings, installing some pop-up bollards, and as the intervention, I think, is accepted on the ground or it's shown to be successful, you then invest in more money, and that becomes the new normal. And then in time, you have a long-term capital investment where it becomes fully established. So for our projects, I suppose there's a lot to learn from internationally and nationally in terms of projects that were carried out during COVID-19. This is a public space in Tuscany. And in Tuscany at the time, the regulations identified 1.8 metre as the social distance to be maintained. So this art installation in this public open space worked on a grid of 1.8 metres. And what you have is ever increasing squares on that 1.8 metre grid as you move towards the statue at centre. So this was seen to, I suppose, emphasize to people, I suppose, this new normal, this new reality during COVID. It was an art installation, but it was also something that was felt that could be rolled out in other public spaces in Italy. These are just two other images. One on the left is from Paris. You can see the use of teddy bears to achieve that social distancing. And the one on the right is a pop-up parklet the weekend in Cork. And this is an image from Giulia Bellone. And some of the great work that, I suppose this is just an Irish example, and there are many examples in Ireland from Cork and Dublin and Limerick and Ennis of great work that was done during the pandemic. And I suppose this pop-up parklet is an example as well of tactical urbanism, that it's quick and low cost. So I'll move on to now to talk about Kildare Market Square. We first started looking at Kildare Market Square in terms of producing a town renewal plan and master plan. And actually in 2016, we applied for funding to the town and village, and we engaged MCO, who were a multidisciplinary practice, to work with us in developing a health check and an urban design analysis. So the boundary for analysis, this is it in red, and right at the centre we have Kildare Market Square. I hope you can see my cursor moving. And what we took in as part of that analysis was the contiguous urban blocks and the roadways and into the centre as well. So just quite like this quote from the Scottish Town Partnership about, a town centre first approach, about mapping the quality of the pedestrian experience, and that the success of a place, a people place, much can be learned by experiencing it, and observing others and asking questions. And you can generally quickly establish what's working and what's not. So this is quite similar, I suppose, to the approach that we took in relation to Kildare around observation, pedestrian counts, movement tracing. So that is about observing the pedestrian and drawing on the map, on the drawing, the movement and the direction that people are moving in. So this drawing, you can see that there was, there's predictably, I suppose, a high level of movement along the edge where the footpaths are. You can see a bit of jaywalking as well. And I suppose the white spaces right there in the center, that's where cars are parked and where there's traffic. So a very useful exercise to do. This also shows the car parking capacity in Kildare town. So the first drawing shows the big red dot right at the center. That's where Kildare Market Square is. That's the car park. And this is at 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. And you can see the car park is at full capacity, and the other car parks dotted around still have quite a high level of capacity available. When the market is on, this is in the middle photograph or the middle image here. There's no car parking, obviously, because the market is using that space. You can see that the other car parks then are used to a much greater extent. And then on a Wednesday, 10:30, this is just showing again that, on a normal day, that there's still a lot of capacity in all the car parks for more car parking. Sorry, just to say, that's just a flavor of some of the analysis we did. We also did space syntax analysis, but all the analysis really pointed to the fact that if we took car parking out of Kildare Market Square, that it was likely to be a success, that the movement was there in terms of people's movement patterns and its accessibility and its prominence in the town centre itself and its location. So this is taken from the master plan, the town renewal plan for Kildare town of Kildare Market Square, and this is a visualization that was prepared by Metropolitan Workshop, showing what Kildare Market Square could look like in the future. And you can see all the car parking has been removed, and there's a variety of seating and nice landscaping. So we have actually we applied for funding to secure funding to actually develop Kildare Market Square as a public space permanently. So we're actually at very early design stage, and we secured $500,000 from Vulture Ireland, as well as just under 2 million from the RRDF fund as well for Kildare town. So this is a photograph, a before photograph of Kildare Market Square in use as a car park. You'll also see there's quite a lot of on-street car parking beyond it, and a lot of traffic on the streets around it. So this, moving on to, I suppose, talk about the project that we did last year. We superimposed the grid concept at a 2 meter spacing, and the intersection of the grid is, I suppose, it was marked on the ground, and this again was the idea of I suppose an art installation, but also referencing the time that we're in, and to, I suppose, really to do something and market make it available as well as public space. So this was an early drawing, and we in this drawing we were looking at working with the existing line markings for car parking on the space. So we really wanted to do very little new work, but to work with what was already there. So this design looks at that. We also looked at designating spaces where tables and chairs would go within a 2 meter grid, social distancing. But in the end, what we actually did was this. We decided to keep it very simple and very flexible. At the time, the area engineer was doing some resurfacing work. And I should say that none of this would have been possible without the invaluable help from the area engineers and the area office. And we worked very closely together on this project, as well as with the elected representatives and the businesses and the community. We had to work very fast as well, and it was really all hands on deck, and it was a great experience, and very positive. But just back to the design, we moved the wheelchair parking bays to opposite the chemist, and the idea is that we'd put a retractable bollard in here so that the only access into the square was to be for deliveries, and also to accessing the cathedral, which is up here. But otherwise, this is what we had when we were finished. It was a new, the square was resurfaced, and then we put down dots, line markings to indicate that social distancing 2-meter grid. Sorry now. Yeah, here we go. This is another before photograph. So you can see this is what it looks like before, all the signage, a lot of visual clutter. So at a low level, you have, I suppose, you have cars, and at that higher level, that higher eye level, you have a lot of signage happening as well. And this is a photograph of what the space looked like when we were finished our project. That's the same view as the last photograph I just showed you, but just closer in. Yeah, this is another photograph looking the other way, and this is a photograph higher up looking down into the space. So you can see that it's a nice sunny day, and what we tried to do was create, I suppose, a variety of seating. Seating immediately on the left is from the cafe, and I suppose the timing of this project was good as well, because Firecastle is a new cafe that was opening up. So they, as well as Strong's Cafe on the left in particular, you know, they avail of this space for outdoor dining as well as Hearts, but it's a public space. So any restaurant in the town, its patrons can buy a coffee and go to Market Square and sit down and use this space. So these are just some quotes that from William Holly White, from his work, The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces. And I suppose I particularly like these quotations, but I suppose it's really just to highlight, just in a way, the simplicity in these kinds of projects, that they don't need to be overcomplicated, and that, you know, this quote here is particularly nice. It talks about people tend to sit most where there are places to sit, and this is very true. Also, people do like basics, as environments go. A space that is open to the sky and filled with people and life is a splendid place to be. William Holly White also talked about, you know, if you want to seed a place with activity, put food out. And I think we were very fortunate in Kildare Market Square that, you know, there's a lot of really nice places to eat as well. Okay, so this is a photograph that was sent in to us actually from Tom McCutcheon, and Tom works in the Kildare Heritage Centre. So in his email, he just remarked that this is Market Square in the morning time on Friday, 6th of November, and it's not even lunchtime. So you can see, like, every table is full of people, and it's a beautiful sunny day. It's cold, I'm sure, because it's November, but I suppose it just shows that what a success, you know, that the project has been, and how much it is embraced by the community. Tom also has a notebook, and he goes up to, you know, people who are in the square and asks them to write what are their impressions of it, and what are their views, what would they like to see change, and so on. So we have received a lot of glowing positive responses, and it's great, because this is a form of recording of data that that's very helpful to us and very useful for the project. These are just some examples of, I suppose, just some of the beauty in a way that that's been visible within the square. There's been a lot of installations. Here's one on the left in the tree for Halloween Day. There was installations for Valentine's Day. There was also installations at Halloween, at Easter, and this is a window display from Christmas time. But this is the local community, I suppose, making things and showing them off for the enjoyment of all. These are just some photos from the market day and the market square in use. These are some photographs from a wellness weekend, and there's some children and some drummers. This is Tai Chi on the left and dawn awakening very early in the morning. So I suppose aspirationally, what we try to do is design our towns to be universally accessible, to provide for the needs for all, both young and old, and up for all abilities, and to improve the quality of life for everyone. This is what helps to build communities and lead to a more inclusive society. I'm moving on now to talk about Poplar Square in Naas. In July last year, we approached nearly all the businesses on the main street in Naas. Unfortunately, because of the time of the year and lockdown, some businesses just weren't able to make contact with them. But here's just an example of the survey that we carried out. But we went around, and sorry, this image isn't very good, but we went around with a booklet of images and spoke to the businesses about the potential use of the public space for the idea around parklets, for outdoor dining, and we used images just to, I suppose, have that conversation and to allow people to think of what they might like to see happen. And following on from that, the council was contacted by 2 businesses on Poplar Square, as well as a cafe on the main street who was interested in a parklet. The businesses on Poplar Square were very interested in outdoor seating and outdoor dining. So that was very encouraging for us. So we decided we would look at Poplar Square seriously, and this is you can see this is a Google Earth image, but I've outlined in red the space that was potentially available to us, and currently it's in use as a car park. The space on the right hand side there is some on-street car parking, but there's a lot of, I suppose, there's a lot of road space. And my colleagues in the transportation department a couple of years ago had successfully got a scheme through Part 8 for a public space in this area. And part of the design was to they relooked at the junction design and the radii. So we incorporated that into our scheme. This is a before photo of Poplar Square in use as a car park. And this is just a drawing of, again, what we did. We resurfaced, sorry, I should say the area office were wonderful in working with us, and they actually carried out the resurfacing work. And when that was done, we came in and a grid, again, a social distancing marker was put on the ground at that 2-meter grid. We kept the wheelchair car parking bays where they exist at the moment, where they were, because they were right beside a pharmacy. But all other car parking was removed. This is just a drawing that's showing the potential of variety of seating in the space and planters, and I suppose the images around the side where we were presenting to the town team and the municipal district and various groups, just just the potential of what we could do with the space. So the idea of, umbrellas with lighting and heaters during the colder months to facilitate outdoor eating. Also the importance of the variety of seats, etc., in the space. So again, this is just a palette of materials, and the top image is a bench that we hope to install actually very soon, and then a picnic table set. The bench with armrests for age friendly, so that older persons can find it easier to get in and out of the seat. And then the picnic set with the longer tabletops to allow somebody in a wheelchair to sit at this table. We also, in terms of the materials, we chose a corten steel planter, really to try and pick up on the red brick color in Lawler's building. So we were at this stage, and in this project, we were getting stronger in terms of be more decided in our use of materials and the palette of materials. We also picked a RAL color, so that will be used for the powder coated aluminium base to the picnic set and the bench. And this is actually a bike stand that a member of the cycling group and Tidy Towns suggested that we might install. We have actually bike stands in storage, so we're just due to restrictions we weren't able to install them, but we can. There are other locations in Kildare, County Kildare, that we'll be able to install them, and actually quite like this stand. If anything, it might just, I suppose, reinforce how pro cycling we are in Kildare. So this is very early in the project. So at this stage, the ground had been resurfaced, and we actually had experienced some difficulties around timelines for ordering of products. So these benches that you see here, and they're actually still in Poplar Square, they are rented, and that was really our best option at the time, was to acquire these and put them in the space. On the right hand side here, you'll see a tweet from Jason Taylor, but it talks about tactical urbanism, and it uses the wonderful examples in Blackrock Village, works carried out by Dunleary Rathdown, but also taking that staged approach, and asking the question, what, to the community and to the designers, to everyone, what will stage or phase 3 look like? So this is Poplar Square as it is at the moment, and this is our phase 2. We do still have a little bit more work left to do. We also, I suppose, as part of the project, we designed a seat to go in under the poplar tree, and that was corten steel as well. This is another image of, this was taken just after Christmas and the New Year, and you can see the corten steel has really nice, it has the color is coming through, a nice orange color, and it's actually become, certainly in recent months, it's become a very, very popular spot. The tables are in constant use. This is a photograph just from Christmas time, and this again is the same, I suppose, the same view, but it's a trad band on Nua. They're doing a segment for DVD being produced for NACE Care of the Aged, and they picked Poplar Square as the site for doing it. But I suppose we put in some lights as well in the trees, just to complement the other Christmas decorations in the immediate area. This is a market that happened one weekend in December, Christmas market in Poplar Square. So it was great to see it used for the market. It was actually extremely popular, and a lot of people turned up. And unfortunately, due to the high numbers, Gardaí, I suppose, just recommended that it take place in a different location. So 2 weeks later, the Christmas market, it took place in a nearby car park. But in Naas, we're currently looking at bylaws. So we'll be in a position, I suppose, to regularize, outdoor markets and to look seriously at our public spaces for use for markets. This is just a photograph on the left. I took it last week. I suppose I was delighted because I just, on the left there, see a family cycling into the square, and there's somebody out reading his paper in the morning. And the photograph on the right was sent in to us. It's just a wonderful photograph of two women having a chat and with their umbrellas up. It's just great to see that. So this is pretty much my last slide or so, but lessons learned. Timing is important. I suppose we felt with Poplar Square, we carried out the works before Christmas, very cold time of the year. Although it looked, it was very nice and Christmassy with all the lights, but it was, I suppose, at the beginning of the project, and you were passing by sometimes and you were seeing empty benches because just the time of the year, I suppose, with the weather. But I think now it's certainly proven to be a really, really, really successful. Lessons learned, I think also collaboration and communication. You can't collaborate enough, you can't communicate enough with everybody, the community, with each other. It's just, whether it's Twitter and Facebook, that you keep people informed on social media every step of the way is very important, and that you consult, and that you're open to hear what people have to say and what they'd like to see or not like to see happen. We, as part of, I suppose, the consultation, we would have consulted with the access group for people with disabilities, and I suppose with the speed at which Kildare Market Square had happened, the benches that had gone in, they weren't suitable for somebody in a wheelchair. So we looked at the idea of adapting them to be able to take a wheelchair to sit under it. Also, I suppose the feedback that we got from the access group was that the white dots was actually, caused a bit of visual difficulty for somebody with autism. So that was something, that was really interesting to get that kind of feedback. So we talked about the idea with the group of maybe covering some of the white dots with a grey disc, and that using the white dots maybe for wayfinding or to lead to a place of safety. The other thing as well, I suppose, just a great variety of seating is really important for all abilities. It's important just to have that variety. And also we had a base to the tree, so we'll be looking at replacing that with a timber solution. Just finish with this. So the quality of the built environment directly impacts on the health and well-being of all people. Approach to design that focuses on inclusion, active movement and social interactions, therefore essential in ensuring our towns can respond to everyday needs. I think this has never been more apparent than it has in, I suppose, the last year or so. And we've all had to adapt very quickly to change. And these kind of projects really have come into their own during COVID, because it is all about change and making space available very quickly. Thank you. That's it. Thanks very much.